became the least in his service. My current duties were the price I paid for my nobility, and another reward he'd given me that I esteemed more highly. We exited the halls of King Ladir's stronghold and came out onto one of the blocky staircases that led downward, descending the massive tor on which it had been built, carved from gut rock. Enormous granite stones merged with the mountain that defined the ponderous edifice of Ladir's seat. The vertical walls were high enough to be impervious to ladders, and the surrounding landscape made it difficult to bring siege engines close enough to do any real damage. The massive city of Bunard, King Ladir's seat of power, spread beneath us. The Rinwash River curved around the stronghold to the north and west, but the river had been diverted into channels to supply water to each quarter of the city. If the sun had been up, I could have seen the bridges connecting each section of the city, but in the darkness only the ends were visible, illuminated by the watchfires at each bank. I followed Gareth downward until we arrived at the king's stables, the smell of horse strong in the still air of the morning. Mounting quickly, we set out for the lower merchants' quarter, as the sky showed hints of slate in the east, riding southwest, passing by the 4 massive cathedrals of the divisions of the church, each with their crier stand out front, thankfully empty. I appreciated the silence. By the time I returned, the day's chosen lector would be out front, declaring each division's interpretation of the word for the unbelieving. After crossing the first bridge, we rode through the opulence of those living nearest His Majesty, structures just short of castles, with broad sweeping arches and stained-glass ballrooms. The scarcity of land precluded the types of formal grounds many of them maintained in their holdings, but their meticulously groomed gardens exuded wealth and order just the same. They were as welcoming as iron. We crossed the next bridge over the Rinwash, heading into the upper merchants' quarter, and turned south, passing homes nearly the equal of the nobility, though they lacked the space for private gardens, and they held about themselves the concentrated energy of those focused on profit. When we passed over the next bridge, the buildings changed from heavy cut granite to wood, first with several stories, then with just 2 or 1. Their plain windows already glowing as those within began preparations for their day in the marketplace or at their craft. The ring of a hammer started somewhere off to my right, and the smell of bread drifted to me, reminding me I'd yet to eat. Gareth took the opportunity our travel afforded to provide what little information he had around mouthfuls of dark bread. "We found 2 men, one dead from blood loss, the other nearly so." His mouth pulled to one side beneath a nose that had been broken so many times that it changed directions often. "A seamstress heard the clash of steel and started screaming, but by the time the night watch arrived, the attackers had fled." I logged Gareth's pithy summary away. My heart beat faster with each step closer, and the abstraction I felt in the presence of the dead commanded my attention. I concentrated long enough to ask a proper question. "Do you have any names?" He nodded. "The watchmen recognize them. The dead man is Robin. He's the menial of Elwyn, the man who got hit on the head. They're servants." I pulled the mist of pre-dawn into my lungs and squinted through the darkness. Some might resent the studied aloofness of a Merum priest or the zeal of the vanguard, and others might even take exception to the aggressive mercy practiced by the absolved. But no one in their right mind begrudged a servant. They seldom preached, the only exception being their crier, wouldn't fight or try to change anyone. They served others. But for some reason, 2 men of the most humble of the 4 orders on the continent had been attacked. My heart quickened again. We rounded a corner and came to the edge of a small grassy area, bordering a clump of plain wooden buildings that huddled against the dark. A stone wall about 8 feet high separated the area from the bank of one of the man-made branches of the Rinwash River. Gareth pointed to a pile of limbs and cloth sprawled against the base of